Hello, welcome to Garden Chronicles. My name is James David, and in today's video I'm actually showing you exactly 1 year anniversary of my garden here, of the last time that I've actually taken in August. And so it is sort of like a preview of what has happened and taken place with the changes and the updates in my garden. So let's see what is growing here very well, and I just want to showcase to you my collection of what is happening in my garden. I do apologize for the noise outside because I'm not doing a re-edit. I'm actually using a direct video, and hopefully it's not too noisy, and I hope my audio quality is good. So this particular one is actually Moonlight. It's a Syngonium, and I have actually, this has been with me for about 2 years. Way back then, I actually had quite a good collection, but I actually taken it for granted and not been taking care of them properly. And so I actually lost a few collection, but somehow I managed to collect some of it. It is still a collection. How do you say? I'm still collecting them in a way. Okay, basically my garden is very much shaded plants, so I'm what I find that in this context, this is how bright my garden gets on an ordinary day. It's actually close to an afternoon. It's about 11 a.m. here, and after this, say about 2 hours from now, it gets darker, and that's about that. So it's quite a shaded garden, but the other element here is that it is now raining season, and it's constantly raining almost hourly. So I'm a bit concerned about rot and leaf rots and all that kind of stuff, but so far they are doing well and okay so far. So I just want to update you on the plants that I actually have. This is I really forgot the name. It's sort of like a Monstera type. Yeah, I know there is a manifestation on this. Okay, I actually bought this from a nursery, and you can actually see the sign of previous fungicide upon them. I just left it as this. So these are the things that actually grows well in my garden, and this is commonly known as Chinese evergreen. It's an Aglonema species, Syngonium, and a few others which is very hardy in this kind of condition. Okay, this is my water pond, and it's some kind of water trickling from the supposed fountain. What I find that begonia loves to be nearby a water body, maybe a pond or water fountain, anything of that sort, and actually that helps a lot for these particular plants to regulate their humidity. The thing here is that I don't want to have a humidifier here because sometimes it can be very humid and sometimes it can be very dry, so it's very difficult to say. And so it's more on very much experience based kind of thing. Okay, so I will do more detailed information video on my begonias. You can actually see them in my earlier videos on how I care and all that, but for now it's very much on the context of what survived in my garden. They are challenging actually, even though they get what they need. Somehow along the line, it's like if you are not careful, they can just rot, and you can't actually see it because the rot actually normally takes place at the base of the plant, something like over here or so over here, and sort of like you will not notice it until it's too late, because it appears to be very much like a succulent, and so it appears to be okay, but it's not. And it's sort of like years of experience only to know that by the time you attend to it, it's sort of like too late. So this is all my Cane Begonia collection. Of course, here and there I have some racks and rhizome begonias which I recently purchased. I'm still trying out and see how it goes. So Other than that, this is my vertical wall garden. Again, I should do a complete information on how I care for them and what are the plants that actually goes well in this kind of condition. See, the problem here is this, which I actually noticed, this is actually sort of like my 10 years of experience of cultivating a vertical wall garden. Not all plants are actually successful when it comes to a tropical, wet and humid and sometimes dry and hot climate. So in that context, also placement of the plants is important. Like for example over here, all of my begonias is actually receiving full sunlight. If any chance, if I were to place them down over here, they seem to rot and in most cases die. So I find that they really need sun, and too much sun can also cause them to burn. Like over here you can see burns. So how do you say, sort of like a tug of war. Can't really know exactly what can actually happen, because I understand this was actually cultivated in a very shaded bright area, so it did not fare well in this condition. But if I were to place it in a bright shade in my garden, what takes place is that they tend to rot and I will lose this particular plant. So it's a tug of war actually. So after this Begonia collection, this has actually been years, of course, I think you would have seen earlier video, I actually have a very good collection of orchids, so it's actually standing here. But you know, orchids, they're very fussy and they do not do well when they are stressed. So these are the few that actually survive. And this is actually ground orchid, Alocasias, if I'm not, something like that, their name. So this seems to fare well in my garden. I think this is been for years. I like this grassy look, long leaf, more like a palm leaf kind of effect. Somehow that is my, how do you say, over the years you tend to like something and you continue to work it out with that. So I managed to get some of those and it does well. So in that collection I find that pineapple seems to do well in this, something like that. This is actually ornamental pineapple. I don't know whether you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. This is to weather the sun because I'm not sure the lighting is good. Okay, so you can see it. So this is more on a succulent kind of thing. They can weather the condition here. Sometimes it rains too much and sometimes it's too dry, and it's okay. So these are the things that I've actually noticed that works well in this kind of garden condition. So not all vertical garden thing is sort of like works best, even though they can be vertical plant friendly. So you really have to try and error kind of stuff. This is Dreamopsis. It's sort of like a bulb kind of succulent. Also, I've introduced few of these new ones here. I'm just weathering and see how it goes. This is supposed to be Burmax. I'm not sure it's really happening. I may have to report, but I'm just showing to you as it is now, how it's actually appearing right now currently, because it's like, if I were to put my hands upon it right now, what's going to happen is that I'll tend to garden. Let's start gardening, I have no time to take a video, and that goes a week, you know. So these are the things that I have to see. Sometimes it's sort of like, how do you say, most gardeners face this challenge of whether keeping a documentation or garden, you know. And when I start to garden, it will take one whole week or sometimes one whole day, and suddenly it rains, you have to put that stop, and then it doesn't really look good in a video. So, you know, in most cases it's not as it is or it's the real kind of stuff. Okay, this is a zigzag plant. Again, I find zigzag plants is, how do you say, vertical garden friendly. They just seems to do very well. So I placed them here, and I like the colors, sort of like, I forgot the name actually, curly something. So the element here is this, like when it comes to zigzag plants, somehow I find that In every year, 2-3 once, there's a new cultivar, new hybrid has been introduced. And they all look so lovely and beautiful. So, how do you say? If you're a lover of this kind of things, you'll end up like me, collecting them. So, sort of in that kind of context. But I find that zigzag plant is quite healthy and easy to care for. Alright, so much for that. And also they're deciduous, that means they will tend to lose the leaves and appear to be a bit lanky and leggy and the kind of stuff. You may want to trim that if you want to, but in my case I'm okay with it. But the thing here is this, I like the cascading effect, so it all based on your taste. I need to trim this later. It looks horrible in the video. Alright, you won't believe it that spider plant is actually the most hardy plant ever. Easy to grow, and actually it's sort of like the beginner's plant. You won't believe it, in my garden it's one of the most challenging things to grow this. I don't know how many times I actually tried it, but they never really do well. Look at, I don't know if you can see it. See, over here, they're not so good looking. So this is what I meant. Some plants do very well, some plants don't. This is Song of India. I actually had two types. This is the green version. I find the white version, the variegated type, was a little bit slow growing and difficult to cultivate here. So this is the one that is actually happening. Okay, then the rest of it is actually the collection of Aglonema. Over the years I've managed to collect them and they're happy. And what I really like about them is their red colors. And they're cheap. I'm not saying very cheap, but they're affordable in comparison to so many other rare plants, you know, those kinds of, those philodendrons and of those sorts. This is the rare plant collection. These are affordable, like say 20 ringgit. And you can get a good bushy one for 30 ringgit. And if you really have a very strong colorization, in fact, some of it has very deep colors and strong colors. I actually got this from my friend. I think it's about 10 years ago, and it's still with me. And I'm able to propagate it and place it in everywhere. This is more on a radio version, and there are pink notes. This is more on the pink. I think it's still red. Okay, the sun is coming up now, so. Okay, so this is a pink. Of course, there are some Aglonemas will have a tricolor. There will be some white spots. Those are more interesting in a newer cultivars. This is all of the older version. This is the white types. So I find that Aglonema seems to do well as a vertical garden. They can handle lack of water. As long as water touches on their leaves, they are fine. They're okay. Okay, that is also one downside about Aglonemas. They can get scale insect on them if they are overshaded or overshaded. If they are placed in a very shaded place, like over here. Last time I was used to hang some Aglonemas here. Didn't go so well. Somehow I find that they need sunlight. In lack of it, they appear to be dying. So what happens if there's an infection in one plant, especially scale insect, it is so difficult to get rid of, and you'll infect the whole collection. So be very careful about Aglonemas in introducing them into your whole big collection, because when it comes to scale insect, they can be very fast to infect all of your plants. So that is my concern, and I'm trying my best not to use pesticides. So that's the thing. So what I will do here is, if worst comes to worst scenario, I'll trim off the leaf, repot it, and apply neem oil and soap, neem soap. But somehow it doesn't really work well. So this is a tug of war that I face with pests in my garden. But overall, when the garden is, how do you say, well balanced and okay, they fare well. So after the Bromeliads collection, this is more of the miscellaneous collection, but mostly Aglonema seems to fare well. And of course I will also place in some ferns here and there, just to give that kind of a filler notes kind of thing. Of course in camera it doesn't really look well, but from where I'm standing and I'm viewing it, it's of a different how do you say, ambience to it. Also, yes, you can also place in some Syngoniums. Okay, this particular portion is very challenging for me because at times there is not much of sun that comes over here and all the plants appears to be dying, and at times it's a struggle because nothing seems to do well. But so far I find that Syngonium is happening here. So I can say Syngonium is sort of like a hardy plant. Okay, also please take note, this is a very common Syngonium. So I find that the one that is of a green version seems to do much more better than the colored version. So let me see if you can see over here. Okay, let me turn. Alright, okay, see, like this colored version is supposed to be pink something, not pink splash. But what is happening here is that lack of sunlight is supposed to slowly turn green, and they are very slow growing. They don't do very well for stress, and if anything goes wrong, they will rot by the base and it's too late to save anything. So these are the plants that is my collection. So apart from Agloanemas, I find that dumb cane or Dieffenbachia goes well together in the collection. Okay, remember I mentioned about scale insect, they don't do very well in shaded area kind of stuff. So this is the telltale sign of it. Can you see it? It's so bad. It's both front and back. Okay, so how do I handle this? So what I'll do is either I have to remove this whole pot and check and see what's actually going. If it's just this one plant that is infected, I have to remove the whole plant because it is going to jump to others. You see? Can you see that? This is the tug. But you can actually scrape off with your fingernail. It's not impossible to get rid of them, but these are the things that you have to watch out for, because failure to attend to this particular scale insect problem, it is going to infect all the other plants and its price ones. You know, you don't want to suffer. It's getting rid of scale insect. You really have to use a good element of pesticide, and sometimes rainy days the foliar types don't really stick well. Okay, so after that is my collection of Alocasia. I'm actually very proud of this collection. This is Lucky one. It's a hard, firm leaf, not the common type. And it does have some blue notes. I don't know whether you can actually notice. This is kind of blue shades kind of stuff. It's been years with me, and I'm very glad that it made it well. I mean, doing very well in my garden. The factor here is, how do you say, they need the bright sunlight, that means partial sunlight. They're not in a total indoor shade. They need good sunlight. And I find that the green types of Alocasia is hardy. Hardy in a sense that they can weather the storm with the rain, with the sun, and you don't have problem. Way back then, this was heavily riddled with spider mites in the indoor setting, and I've been applying miticide, and I'm trying my best to get rid of it, and it really was a tug of war and was a battle, and I almost lost the battle. So how do I say it? So eventually I just took a chance of placing it over here, and lo and behold, it's like a normal common plant, and I'm so shocked that they can do so well here. This is a Syngonium alba. Also it's looking good. It's happening. Oh, it's a nice one here. So this is what I do. I actually repotted all of my Alocasias with coconut chips and sand. That's it. This is Sinuata, slowly is coming up. Earlier I had a beautiful piece, but I think it has gone dormant. And they're flowering, I'm supposed to trim them off. But every time I've been trimming off all these flowers, the inflorescence, this seems to be coming back. So there's a little bit of I don't know. I'm afraid that if I were to overdo on the trimming of the flowers, they might go stress and dormant. Okay, so this looky one. Also the same story with Zibriana. It's the Zibriana. Okay, can you see the leaf? It's one pot of Zibriana. Also riddled horribly with spider mites. I believe spider mites don't like water. That means like if they get rain and sun on them, it's not so bad. Compared to Colocasia, I think Colocasia is much more sensitive. But Alocasia, in a sense that if they receive water on them on a daily basis, on the leaves, and if they become acclimatized to your garden condition, they're okay. So you look at it, this is so huge, so big for a Zibriana. Normally when I purchased it, it was this big and it was a small plant and it was like struggling, and I was thinking, will it survive or not? So I took a chance of placing it here, and lo and behold, it perked up and it, what's this? And it perked up and it did well. Okay, the leaves are a bit hardy and strong and firm in comparison to Lucky One, but somehow I find that this is an Alocasia, not Colocasia. So in a way, I find that they weather the storm, supposedly to say. So after this is the collection of all my ariods. This is the pink one, and supposedly the small material area here, because it's the best I can get on a bright sunny area, is Longiloba. Where is it? Okay, it's just recently introduced, so sort of like it's trying to pick up. I placed the pot here, but it fell off on the other side one time. I put it upright, so it's all down. This is Dieffenbachia, very nice colors. I actually got this exchange from a friend from in a garden KVPA. I'm sure you'd have come across that if you are in Malaysia. In Klang Valley is a very active garden group that we come together, exchange plants and sell plants for very reasonable, gardeners for gardeners kind of thing. And most times I host it in a way. And so because of in that context, being actively involved in it, I was able to get my collection from that instead of buying them from nursery. So in a way, it's a win-win situation by exchanging plants with gardeners and buying how do you say, an affordable price. Okay, so coming back to this place, so this is my vertical wall, and underneath here is my collection of all my Syngonium, Monstera, Raphidopteria, all the ariods, you can name it lah. It's all this in a, I just got myself interested, sort of like infected with it in a way that I like suddenly fall in love, like, you know, what they call that, you call it FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. And slowly you just got connected, and suddenly you just thought of, okay, let me try one, and let me try two, and let me try three, and then before you know it, got everything in your hands. So this is the case of a, how do you say, borderline hoarder. I mean, like, if I spoke too soon, what I meant was a borderline hoarder, you know. Some of our gardeners are actually struggling with that, so I'm one of those in that context. So it's sort of this one, coming back to plants, it's supposed to be how do you call it, pink dragon, but my pink is slowly turning its colors off and it's reverting to something else. Maybe not, I'm not sure what I actually purchased, but so it's okay. It's sort of like, as long as the plant doesn't die in my garden, I'm okay with it. I'm not so keen. So this is the problem that I face. It's like too many plants in a small garden, so I have to see that they don't overwhelm each other. Alright, so this is the review on my vertical wall garden. So I do not water them on rainy days, and I foliar fertilize them weekly. That also depends on my mood. I have become very lazy. Let me go further, you can see more clearly on what is here. Alright, okay, what I want to mention, I do tend to have time to time the plant seems to become leggy out of it grows out of the pot, and so I will repot it, but it only takes place like 6 months once. So the last time I did it was somewhere in June. So the next one will be next year, somewhere in February. But that period of time will be very hot, dry season. So it's very convenient for me to do it because I don't normally do this on a rainy season, because you have to uproot, take out, change the soil, and then it rains, it will be wet, and then the whole place will be muddy, and I had to wait for a few days to restart back, and my mood is out, and then it will be all over the floor with mud and sand and soil. It's very, very depressing. Okay, so coming back to part 2, this is supposedly the part where I actually put the hydroponic thing with my begonias. Sadly, most of it didn't really do well. I think some of it overgrown, and the Alocasias I have now come to the conclusion of my video on the part 1, where on the context of all the begonias over here, followed by the vertical wall and the hydroponic begonia. Do check out on my part 2, and if you have any questions, do put them in the comment below, and I'll try my best to answer them. If you can, please click like and subscribe my channel. See you in part 2, and have a nice day. Bye.